Philadelphia's mini-buy bombshell has officially dropped, as the Birds' sack leader just unexpectedly retired, further adding fuel to the multiple reports this weekend suggesting Howie Roseman is preparing a move, and it's extremely clear exactly who he's going after. Plus, the Vikings' quarterback dilemma is looking rough heading into their matchup versus the Birds on Sunday. A.J. Brown's trade rumors remain way off, and an interesting report to explain the real reason behind the Birds' 2-game losing streak today has gotten wild. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. Philadelphia is fresh off their 2-game losing streak in over a year. Instead of simply exiting their mini bye week refreshed and ready for Sunday versus the Minnesota Vikings, we just had a major bombshell seemingly out of the blue, as one of their top edge rushers just unexpectedly retired, sending the Birds' lackluster defensive line into a status of panic and creating a new narrative about the state of the Birds' locker room. First, though, drama aside, it's your second chance to enter the Jordan Spector Art Jason Kelce giveaway. If you want to win this bad boy on a show later this week, drop a like and leave any comment down below. I'm sure it's going to be about Za'Darius Smith, but comment right now. Oh, and for the 44% of you who watch every show but are not subscribed, I see you. Remember, only subscribers can win, so go ahead and hit that red button. Okay, now let's jump into the mega news that just happened really a couple of hours ago, as around 11:30 a.m. Monday morning, Eagles edge rusher Za'Darius Smith posted this picture and caption to his Instagram stating, quote, "I knew this day would come, but now it's officially here. I'm feeling so many emotions I never expected." In what was the beginning to a long post officially announcing his retirement from the NFL, which was later confirmed by Fox Sports' Jay Glazer. And this is a bombshell, it's a shock, it's something I never saw coming. There was zero indication anywhere in the Eagles' ether that Za'Darius Smith was going to retire, maybe at the end of the season, but let alone heading into Week 7. I mean, Za'Darius Smith just signed a hefty $9 million incentivized contract to the Birds, 3 weeks ago, following his 9-sack stint with the Browns and Lions in 2024. And more importantly, he was the Eagles' leading sacker coming off the edge with 1.5 through 3 games, leaving a massive hole on the Birds' defensive line, whose only other edge with a sack so far this season is Patrick Johnson. I totally get that Za'Darius Smith has every right to retire whenever he wants. He's aging, he's 31 years old, wants to go ahead and hang it up, but 3 games into his contract in Philadelphia, at this point in the Eagles season when they desperately needed him, there's a story here that's not being revealed, and getting to the bottom of it's going to take some time. Overall, though, what was he thinking?
I got a lot more left in the tank. I played football. I started my senior year in high school. So it's like I'm still young in the game, man. So, yeah, I got a lot more left. Don't put that one on me.
Philadelphia just lost 2 straight games. And while some are panicked, I, for one, am holding out the hope that they were in a similar slump to weeks 2 and 4 last season and are about to turn things around. However, Smith's retiring not only creates a serious hole, as we just talked about on the defensive line, but adds some further questions about the locker room and the vibes inside the organization. I mean, Smith clearly picked Philadelphia over others in order to chase a ring in his final year. Would he have retired if he personally thought right now Philadelphia had a legit chance of going back-to-back? Which is a serious question, but is it even fair to ask? Honestly, I don't know. Do you tie the locker room to defensive issues? Or again, did Smith simply want to retire and realize he didn't want to play anymore? We do know right now, the narrative from Philadelphia's PR people to the beat writers today is that it was a personal decision for Za'Darius Smith and had nothing to do with the locker room. Which may be true, but we also know Smith left a ton of incentive money on the table because if he had reached those target sack incentives, he would have gotten paid, making this whole thing still very odd. We might never find out. We'll see what insiders say the next couple of days. Obviously, we're going to hear from the team in the coming hours and days as well, but this retirement is something I have not seen in Philadelphia basically my entire lifetime and creates a massive hole that Howie Roseman must quickly address in order to keep the defensive line and defensive unit together as a whole. Nolan Smith is out till at least the bye week, which is still 4 weeks from today. And Jalen Carter, as we know, is dealing with the combination of a lingering training camp shoulder injury and whatever this heel issue was that kept him out of the Giants game a couple of days ago. As Philadelphia stands, they only have just 4 healthy pass rushers on their entire D-line unit. And that unit alone with Za'Darius Smith had just 6 sacks on the year. The good news, however, in all of this panic is that they still have Howie Roseman and a trade deadline is still less than 3 weeks away. Plus, over the weekend, we got real reporting from real insiders citing Philadelphia has been trying to make a trade ahead of the trade deadline, and that becomes way more important today, and I think I knew who they're going to target. Also, I want to give a massive shout out to one of my favorite sponsors on the channel, and of course, is Groons. What are Groons? Well, it's a packet like this with a bunch of little packets like this, and it's essentially a greens gummy, multivitamin, and prebiotic all packed into one. And let me tell you, these things are unbelievable. Like, they have 6 times more gut health ingredients than the leading greens powders. They also have biotin and niacinamide for healthy hair, skin, and nails, plus functional mushrooms for brain support and vitamin C to help fight stress-inducing free radicals. And the best part is, as I showed you, it's this little tiny packet, so it's super easy to travel with and take on the go. I, for one, took them to Europe this past summer, and the daily packets fit in any bag, so I never missed my daily nutrients. And because they're in gummy form, they obviously taste fantastic, but it also is more bioavailable, meaning you can absorb the nutrients better from them. And right now, if you want to try Groons, well, they're giving me 52% off, which is crazy. I double-checked it, but click the link down below my description box. We're going to QR code somewhere right over here. 52% off your first order. Try Groons. Trust me, you're going to love them. I mean, for instance, Ian Rappaport, he said this over the weekend, quote, Eagles general manager Howie Roseman has never met a trade he wouldn't consider. And don't be surprised if you're looking for some help on defense. A cornerback or edge would make sense. Followed by the Athletic's Zach Berman adding, quote, the trade deadline is November 4th. But you've already seen a few trades during the past week. If the Eagles make a move, cornerback and edge rusher are the two spots I'd watch closely. Throw in ESPN's Jeremy Fowler, noting that the big game to be hunted at the deadline is going to be edge rusher. The Birds now have a ton of high-profile names to search for and hopefully go ahead and grab. The first of which is 1-5 Titan Arden, who might not be a household name, but he has reached 39 pressures in each of the last 4 seasons, and also, key factor here, is solid against the run. Plus, he's in the final year of his Tennessee Titan contract, likely meaning there's a deal to be made, and it probably will be pretty cheap. The same goes for Dolphins edge rusher Jalen Phillips. Talked about him past couple of weeks here. Comes off of injury, not really that productive this season, but I think he would also be cheap. To me, Key and Phillips are the cheaper options if Howie wants to go that route. My personal favorite player, a little more expensive though, on the market right now, has to be the 1-5 Dolphin edge rusher Bradley Chubb, who just makes the most sense for a bevy of reasons. I mean, A, he signed through 2027, so you get some longevity there, and B, he's actually amassed serious stats this season in 2025, garnering 4 sacks through 6 games despite playing on the horrific 1-win Dolphins unit. Bradley Chubb is getting up there in age. He's coming off an ACL injury in 2024. You'd think those would be red flags, but he has actual production in 2025. Howie Roseman has missed on trade deadline moves in the past, but those were for players who weren't producing when Philadelphia traded for them. They had previous season production. Bradley Chubb has sacks this year, and that should definitely mean something. Finally, though, I must at least mention Trey Hendrickson, again for like the 200th time this year. But with Smith retiring and the Bengals losing again versus the Packers this weekend, Hendrickson is definitely on a trade block and obviously the best option. As teams are calling, listen to Diana Rossini just the other day, note that San Francisco is one of many to make a call and inquire about the 30-year-old edge. Hendrickson is the biggest fish of the entire deadline class and is only on a 1-year contract, so it's doable even for Philly. Is he healthy? That remains a question after this weekend, but don't rule out a Howie bomb of this magnitude because, again, they desperately need an edge. There also technically is a world where Nakobe Dean slides back into the linebacker position starting this week, and Philadelphia then plays Jahad Campbell at the edge to fill the gaps. Not the worst idea, but again, I've said this before, they love Campbell at inside linebacker and really don't want to mess with his growth there. I think a trade is honestly far more likely. Of course, with all this deadline talk, all this edge talk, the Birds must make a move, but we must at least acknowledge that the one Achilles heel of Howie Roseman's tenure the past couple of seasons has been his failure to actually hit on a trade deadline move. Should that caution him? Maybe. It's not going to stop him from making a move, but as Anthony DeBona pointed out in a tweet just the other day, Howie has missed on his last 3 trades. Kevin Byard in 2023, remember that one? Absolutely terrible. He never turned out to be a good player in Philadelphia. The worst of, though, was Robert Quinn in 2022. Good example of a guy who had sacks the previous season, but not a lot the current year that Philadelphia traded for him. And then, again, going back to 2021, Kerry Vincent Jr. All were seemingly big upgrades that never came close to panning out. Still, though, Philadelphia has never had a player of Smith's caliber retire this early into a season at such a key position. Previous trade deadline failures or not, the Eagles are now forced to make a move, and you can be sure it's going to come sooner rather than later. Now, of course, no trade will solve the Eagles' defensive problems if they all keep playing like they did versus the Giants last week going forward. As for the first time in really over a year, Vic Fangio's unit got completely dominated and really, most importantly, out-physicaled at every level. Something that everybody forgets was a staple of the 2024 unit, especially down the stretch. Remember whenever they went to Baltimore and physically dominated the red-hot Ravens? Yeah, we need to get back to that. Well, speaking of physicality, there might be a reason for Thursday's struggles, as The Athletic quoted a league exec noting, quote, the Eagles have looked drained, emotionally and physically. The defense we saw Thursday night was on the field for 70-plus plays in the heat just 4 days ago. It's not an excuse, however, it's possible Philly's not broken. The Eagles are just out of sync and worn out. And honestly, that makes a ton of sense. It's not an excuse, but Philadelphia's defense, they've been on the field a lot, and they've played a lot of very good opponents. And while sure, some people can argue that playing into February last season took a physical toll on the Birds heading into 2025, and I lean into that somewhat, but let's not forget the level of talent the Birds have faced leading up to this past Thursday's loss to New York. For example, can we at least admit that wins over maybe the best offense in football and Dak's Cowboys is something, or that going to Arrowhead and beating Mahomes and Andy Reid is a lot harder than people actually realize? Looking at you, Lions. What about hanging on against the clear NFC West favorites in the Rams, or finally beating Baker Mayfield and company in Tampa? That alone looks like an absolutely incredible win just a couple of weeks later, especially this past Sunday. With all those wins against playoff or at least fringe playoff teams, when you pair the opponent with the fact that Philadelphia's offense leads the league in 3 and outs through 6 weeks, it's no wonder this defense might be a little gassed and beat up on a short week. Last season, Philadelphia was 2-2. They seemed gassed, out-physicaled, all heading into their Week 5 bye week, which was 2 weeks off. They got everything right. They looked healthy after that and started a long run into, the rest is history, Philadelphia winning the Super Bowl. Right now, they just concluded a mini bye week. It's not a full bye week. Doesn't guarantee they're going to be 100% healthy, but I do think the mini bye week could have come just the right time to get them healthier, less gassed. Maybe we see more of the 2024 defense and hopefully offense, but defense heading into a very interesting matchup against the Vikings this coming Sunday. Which, speaking of getting back on track and the Minnesota Vikings, I think this is the best offense the Eagles could possibly have hoped to face heading into Week 7. As right now, the Vikings sit in the bottom third in total yards, and the big news today, have 2 banged-up quarterbacks. Tom Pelissero noting that J.J. McCarthy is cleared to practice this week, but remains very uncertain for Sunday with that bum ankle. All while some guy named Carson Wentz, no idea who that is nursing a left shoulder issue that will also limit him in practice, at least for the next couple of days. If I was the Birds, I would want to play J.J. McCarthy. We'll see what he does. He's going to be limited on that bum ankle in the next couple of days, just because he's not been able to throw the football very well. It's a very bad offensive line, so you could get after him, get some sacks. But I also wouldn't rule out Carson Wentz. I know that there's a revenge aspect to Wentz playing Philadelphia, but Philadelphia wants to beat him as well. And if they can get after Carson Wentz and make him, commit some turnovers in classic win fashion, then the Birds defense could get back on track and Philadelphia could get their much-needed 5th win of the season. What I won't give any more thought to this week, though, is the trade status of A.J. Brown. Because if you've seen the headlines out of The Athletic this weekend quoting an AFC GM saying it would have to be for the right player or pick, but a trade wouldn't surprise me. How he likes deals, especially if a player's value overrides how Brown is being used. Well, if you believe that, you must realize one thing that no one else is talking about Philadelphia's top receiver. If traded, the Eagles would be on the hook for $16.3 million in dead cap money this year, and wait for it, $43.4 million next season. AKA, it's impossible to trade for A.J. Brown because of the dead cap hit on Philadelphia. They physically cannot pay, $60 million in dead cap money the next 2 years just to get rid of A.J. Brown, who is critical for their offense. Someone needs to tell Diana Rossini, who I like at times at The Athletic, that any anonymous AFC GM who says they might trade him needs an education in dead cap money, because it's literally impossible for the Birds to do. And so I had to hit on it, but we're not going to give it any more airtime the next couple of days because it is impossible. Now, of course, plenty more stuff happening the next couple of days and weeks. This was a shocker today. We'll get you guys up to date if they make a move the next couple of days, what players say about the move inside the locker room. What does this mean for the locker room? Welcome to Drama in Philadelphia. I was really hoping for a cool, calm 4-2 start to the Monday. It's going to be just fine. And now this happens. We're going to learn a lot more the next couple of days. Be sure to subscribe. Get in on the giveaway from Jordan Spector as well, announcing that on a video later this week, probably Saturday. And we'll see what happens. I'm Thomas Mott. As stunned as you are, this has been The Thomas Mott Show.